YouTube family, are you ready to see your new fixer-upper cookie?
Oh my God, yes!
Here we go! Well, hey friends, I'm Shelly. I'm the face behind the keto, low-carb, and anti-inflammatory kitchen. I love Joanna Gaines. I love cookies, but I love keto more. And I'm gonna show you all today how to make Joanna Gaines' famous chocolate chip cookies into a keto version that your friends and family would love. If you don't know who Joanna Gaines is, I mean, have you been living under a rock? The lady, first off, is gorgeous. She's married to Chip. They have like 17 kids. Really, it's 5, but to me, that's like 17. They remodel houses. They live in Waco. They own some business, Magnolia, blah, blah, blah. I mean, these folks are fabulous. Homegirl even now has her own cooking show on, what is it, Discovery Plus, which you have to stream. So I'm like, hey, I like her. She seems likable. Like, I would love to have a cup of coffee with her. Let's make over one of her famous recipes. And today, we are gonna do her chocolate chip cookie. So I have the recipe in front of me. We're gonna read through it. I got a bunch of ingredients and these are the exact same ingredients. And I'm gonna show you how we modify this. So Joanna's Magnolia Table chocolate chip cookies. She tells us the story of her dad, we love dads, has an intense sweet tooth just like me. So Joanna's totally relatable because she likes sweets, I like sweets. Oh my God, besties, right? One afternoon, she was 10 years old, her dad got a hankering and they made Toll House chocolate chip cookies. That was the first time they baked together. Y'all better bring on the Kleenex because I'm about to cry. So she kind of based this recipe, I guess, off the Toll House, but she says something very interesting and I want folks to take note because this is for all the hater gators out there. She did admit that she pulled back the butter in this recipe. And that's very important because, you know, in keto and low carb, we're okay with butter, but I'll tell you a little bit about those modifications. So the first step in doing Joanna's recipe is we're gonna look at the ingredients. She uses basic ingredients. We got our flour, baking soda, sea salt, butter, brown sugar, eggs, vanilla extract, chocolate chips. Oh, I forgot those. Be right back.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Whoopsies. And in doing recipes, especially cookies, we know we're gonna need our oven, we know we're gonna need our baking pan, parchment paper, which she called for. Unfortunately, I ran out. So we just are using our non-stick aluminum foil. One of the first things we notice, of course, is flour. And in the keto low carb kitchen, of course, we're not gonna use flour. We're gonna use almond flour. By now, you all know my dislike of coconut. So I guess you could do it with coconut flour. Be my guest, be my guest, be my guest. You can do that for sure, but we're gonna do almond flour. So her first ingredient is 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. We are gonna use that exact same amount in almond flour. We're using the Blue Diamond almond flour. This is at Sam's. Remember, gang, I'm not all about being bougie. I like to look bougie on a Bayou budget. The ingredient in here is blanched almonds. We are keeping the 2.5 cups like she did. But here's the important note. This is where you wanna grab your pen and paper. When we cook with almond flour, we're gonna go for a lower temperature. So we're gonna scroll down and see that, hey, we want to bake this at 350, so we're gonna preheat our oven to 325. Scrolling back up, she says, place flour, baking soda, and salt together in a medium bowl set aside. We're gonna X that step out because I hate to do dishes. We're just gonna add it in as we're mixing. The next ingredient she calls for, and it's weird, I can't believe they like reversed it like that. I guess I can see why. Next step calls for a teaspoon. We're gonna do 2 today because when we use almond flour is very heavy compared to regular flour or whole wheat flour, which is garbage, just like white flour. We will double the baking powder to help it to rise. Now, this is where folks are gonna comment, can I use xanthan gum? You can, but I wanted to really use the ingredients that she used. Half a teaspoon of sea salt, yeah, works out for me. This is where it's gonna get a little tricky. So she uses a whole stick of butter. And when I'm modifying recipes, let me find my butter. Oops, be right back. It's in the fridge. Now, typically speaking, gang, so we have our stick of butter. I'm actually not gonna use a stick, and don't panic because yes, we do like, you know, fat in this kitchen. I'm gonna use 3/4 of the stick or 6 tablespoons. Here's why. Almond flour does have fat in it, and fat is heavy, you know? So this is a cookie. We usually like it to have like this little fluffy feel. with that said, we can reduce the butter and be okay. Now remember, Joanna said herself, let's be besties. Joanna said that, hey, you know, I use less butter in this recipe. So most recipes would have, you know, 1.5 cups of butter. So I would have used 3/4 cup of butter. Sometimes I do cut the butter down by half because you have to remember that almond flour is heavier. So let's review. We're doing 2.5 cups of our almond flour, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of our sea salt, 6 tablespoons of our butter. And then her next ingredient is light brown sugar, 2 cups. Today we are going to replace that with my lovely Swerve. I love this stuff. I love this, people. New Orleans company. Y'all know I'm from Louisiana. But here's another one of my modifications. For me personally, absolute personally, we're going to use 3/4 of a cup. It's like, whoa, Shelly, I thought Swerve said that, you know, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Completely true. I have not had sugar in a lot. I do have a sweet tooth, but I find that when I eat items that have, you know, erythritol in there or, you know, other choices, allulose, monk fruit, etc., I don't need as much. It's kind of like my taste buds change. And a lot of people will say, ooh, that's very sweet. So I actually cut the substitute down by at least half. So we're using 3/4 cup of brown sugar today. 2 eggs, we're gonna keep it. In some keto recipes, you'll say, hey, you could add another egg for protein. Because this is a cookie, we're gonna keep the 2 eggs. 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. One of my favorite things to do is double it. So we'll do a tablespoon and then her chocolate chips. So let's get into our directions. Pretty much similar to any kind of cookie, we're gonna place the butter and the Swerve in our bowl in a stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. Okay, we're gonna use a hand mixer. All right, now, you notice some of my sugar flew away. That's not a big deal, gang. You know, we can't expect it to look completely Food Network every time we cook items. Some of it's gonna fly away, and that's okay. All we do is grab it. I'm not panicking. I don't want y'all to panic either. Now to this, and it says, beat on medium-high speed until light and fluffy. It's okay, it's okay. For 2 to 3 minutes. Ooh, I got butter on my shirt there. Add the eggs and eat until blended. So this is where it's gonna look pretty good. You all know that one of my tricks is that I love to crack an egg in a measuring cup. And the reason that is because I always like to look to see if there's any shells. And this is a great tip that you can teach the kids. I'm just so excited because I think like I'm behaving like Joanna's gonna see this and she's gonna comment, oh my God, Shelly, come to Waco and we can go and have lunch and I can decorate your house. And I'm like, oh, you what, Joanna? Oh my gosh. Like, I just really feel like she and I would be friends, you know, and just having some coffee and, you know, going to her cupcake store and she'll say, Shelly, make a keto cupcake for Magnolia. And I'm like, ah! Okay, a girl can dream, gang. This is kind of the stuff I think about. I'm gonna grab a rubber spatula and kind of mix this real quick.
Nope.
Ooh, this makes sense. Keep calm and get your bake on. I feel like that's something Chip would say. What do y'all think about that? To this, we're gonna add our tablespoon of our vanilla extract. And folks always ask me, you know, why do you double the vanilla extract? And I go, well, since we are pulling a lot of sugar out, I feel like it just kind of gives it more of that, I don't wanna use the word smokier because this is very, you know, this should be definitely a sweet dish, but I feel like it helps make the flavors, you know, kind of improve and kind of blend a little bit better together. Let's continue to beat this for another minute. Now, it says turn off mixer and add the flour mixture. Remember, I kind of just feel like that's a little bit of a wasted step. We're dirtying a dish. But what we don't want to do, gang, is just kind of throw everything in there and throw the mixer on it. It will blow up. You thought the butter explosion that happened earlier was bad, and I'm leaving it in there to show you real world cooking. We're gonna add it gradually by gradual. We're gonna mix it all together. And the thing to know, gang, about almond flour cookie dough is that it will be a little thicker. So this is where you don't want to grab milk, you don't want to grab water, you don't want to grab oil and add to it because it's gonna turn into a funky mess. This is exactly how it's supposed to look. So what we're adding to this, remember, 2.5 cups of almond flour, 2 teaspoons of our baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of our sea salt. And then we have our final cup. Y'all, this is looking like some cookies. Oh, I fixed her up with some cookies. I'm gonna be invited to the Magnolia Table as a guest. Thank you, Joanna. Joanna, I'll babysit the kids too, boo.
Cookie dough, cookie dough.
I guess you can say that was my chip that just walked through. All right, gang. So this is absolutely beautiful. Now, again, you cannot get scared that, oh my gosh, this is a really thick dough. This is what it's supposed to look like because of the almond flour. Remember, almond flour is our awesome keto substitute that we use in here. And I do realize, folks, that some of us out there may have an allergy or so. Absolutely play with recipes. This is one of my favorite things to do in our clinic. Most of y'all know I am a dietitian and I run a weight loss clinic. And our third class is that we bring in some of our favorite recipes, be it mama or granny's, and we make them over. We do exactly what we just did here. Now, I love this part of recipe. You know, Joanna, I have to give you an A-. The minus part is because she used a different bowl, but boo, come on, baby. We don't want dirty dishes. But it says that you can chocolate amounts, depending on what you're in the mood for. You can add 1/2 cup more chocolate. Okay, Joanna told us she loves chocolate. We are gonna use the Lily's dark chocolate baking chips. I'm not even gonna measure these bad boys. It calls for 1.5 cups, which I have to say is a nice hearty amount of chocolate chips. This isn't like the chocolate chips you buy at certain other stores where it's like, oh, I have 2 chocolate chips. I mean, she really went for it with this. Again, there's Lily's. Lily's is one of my favorites because they do use more of stevia. I'm gonna say this is probably only about 3/4 cup that I added in here. There's a couple other brands. Again, gang, I'm using dark. Could you use milk? Could you use white chocolate? For sure. You know, definitely use what you like. That's what this is all about. And again, notice this is a super duper thick texture. Do not, under any circumstances, water this down. This is exactly what this is supposed to look like. And how I scoop cookies is I do use an ice cream scoop. Now, some folks will say, well, whoa, that's a huge cookie. Boo, I like cookies, back off. This is non-stick aluminum foil. I personally ran out of parchment paper. I wanted to bring this recipe to y'all because it's so yummy. You could use your parchment paper on here. Remember, 325 is the temperature we had. We're gonna go ahead and scoop and I'm gonna separate it. Now, here's the negative news is that oftentimes when we cook with almond flour, we will get a flatter product. That's okay. You know, it doesn't alter the flavor. Now, if you have, you know, a boo-boo head in your house or, you know, I'm sure I'm going to have a boo-boo head comment on here where folks will say, well, you know, it flattened, it's not pretty. And I always say, well, did it taste good? And if it's yes, then does that really matter? Do we have to really be so stinky about it? You know, I mean, cut Joanna a slack here, y'all. Come on now. I love to use the ice cream scoop because I'm having fun today. It makes things just even and nice. You will have to cook 2 batches of this. Now, here's the important part to note. Just like with the temperature we went down, it's almost reverse. We go down in temperature, we have to go up in cook time. And the reason that is because this is a higher fat product. It's gonna take a little bit longer time to cook. Joanna cooked hers for 10 minutes. We're gonna go for 15 to 25, depending on the size of the ice cream scoop you used. I use a larger one, so I'm gonna be closer to that 20 to 25 minute mark. But if you use a smaller one, go that 15. And I can't resist. I know Joanna read that in. Love raw cookie dough. Let's get these in the oven. We'll be back shortly. The cookies have cooled and now it's more important. Will this flip or will this flop? I will tell you. Well, look-wise, so let's see if it flips or flops look-wise. Look-wise, it's staying really intact. Remember, that's probably because we reduced the butter a little bit more. If you'd have done the same, it might have flattened out a little bit. Let's see. Oh, open up the inside. They're still super warm. I see a bunch of chocolate chips, y'all. Oh. Flipped. This is amazing, gang. Now, here's what I love about this. So warm. It's not over sweet. You know, some folks are gonna eat that and they may say, I need a little bit more sweetness. And I'm like, okay, we'll just make a glaze of swerve and put it on top of there. But remember, gang, a lot of times when we avoid sugar for a really long time, and even when we use the replacers that are wonderful for us, it can be a little too sweet. We just get that feel. Joanna, thank you so much for this amazing cookie recipe. That was easy. I love the ingredients, Joanna. I'm giving you an A-, and that's just because you used a little bit too much equipment for me. This cookie was crazy easy to make over, and you can use the exact tips that I did for your own personal favorite recipes. I'm Shelly, gang, from the KLA Kitchen. I'm gonna eat the rest of these. And yes, you can scroll down below for the exact recipes, my tips, and yes, download a 7-day keto-friendly menu. And gang, I really want to take a bite of this. But if you love this, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Everybody, have a beautiful day. Mwah! Oh, it fell apart. Oopsie. You like it, sis?
Yes, I loved it.
Yay! Me really liked it.